You're listening to Garden Master Ken Lane and the Top 10 Gardener Podcast. Welcome to the Top 10 Garden Show.
And we are back with my special guest. She comes, well, every week, not a guest, just cohort,
Just special.
co-host, my special wife. Comes in each week. Just shares garden questions. Just what are people talking about out in the gardens? And there's something to glean off from that. So we're starting to see people show up. So we had, It was cold and rainy last weekend at the garden class, and there were like 20 people there waiting to go. It's just like, okay, gardeners are funny that way. They go after it no matter what. So welcome to the studio.
Thank you. Good to be here.
How good?
Super duper good.
Yeah.
How's that?
What kind of questions we got?
Sure. So Al wants to know, he hasn't watered his landscape since late December. Can he just skip watering in January, or should he water?
Al, shame on you. You haven't watered since December. Come on. And really, you should water your plants 2 inches per week, per month. Sorry. So give it a deep soak. 1 inch of water will penetrate about 6 inches of soil. That's where most of the roots are, maybe a little deeper if you could. So you want that water pushed down pretty far. So it seems like we've had some moisture, but we haven't had any really. I mean, the ground is bone dry. So the dry washes are not running. So the ground is absorbing all of it and holding it. So if anything, that moisture we've had, the couple times we've seen moisture, all it did was keep you from having, it provided one more day of watering before you had to water it again. It really didn't hydrate your plants at all. Right. So they're desperate. They need moisture. I'd get out there with a hose. I mean, just get a bucket, something, especially your new plants. I'm not talking about big 20, 30 foot Colorado spruce with roots all over the ground, all over the gardens. I'm talking about that new Vanderwolf pine, that new lilac, that new hedgerow, that new privacy screen. If you want those things to really grow for you next, March, you should hydrate those. Don't let the tips dry out. Don't let the roots dry out. Keep them hydrated. So what we tell folks is water 2 times per month through winter. Pick a nice day and just water them midday. And it's a deep soak. It's as though you're watering your plants in the heat of June and it's 95 degrees out. It's just blistering hot. Water it like that. But then you're not doing it for another 2 weeks. Right. If we get moisture, and I mean intense, crazy, I haven't been outside for 3 days kind of moisture, not, oh, there's a cloud in the sky. I feel like I'm wet now, not Arizona dry. I'm talking like real moisture, like raining dry. Then you can cut one of those out at least once a month, one time at least, no matter what. Really, it should be twice. You should water twice. So Al, get out there, water your plants.
Definitely right now, because a lot of your plants they're getting ready to set for their new growth. Lilacs are setting buds, forsythia, all those things that, especially spring bloomers, if they don't get that moisture, you're not going to get the big blooms like you want.
If a lilac dries out and it goes through a real cold cycle, it will sacrifice the flowers of spring to keep the heart or the mother plant or the core of that plant alive. Same with your fruit trees, same with your spring blooming trees, same with so you really want to protect them. And as they're budding up, if you take a close look, walk your yard and look at your plants, they are preparing for spring. They're actively swelling those growths. So while they're doing that, they're taking more moisture. So you'll need to protect them a little more. Once they start to bloom, now it really becomes critical. Because plants, once they're in bloom, they're using more moisture because they're evaporating or sweating out moisture out of those flowers or out of those fruits. And so protect them. So anyway,
yes,
don't mean to scare you, just just in 2 months. It's too long.
You need to water.
Yeah.
I know, speaking of things starting to set buds, I noticed our neighbor's winter jasmine across the street.
Isn't that pretty?
Is starting to bloom, a real pretty bloom. Very nice. All right. Danny said his neighbor recommended applying something to his Vanderwolf and blue spruces to help with the color. He wants to know what that is and when it should be applied.
So Danny, great question. I'm glad that neighbors are helping us gardeners. They like to help each other. So you start talking, wow, how do your plants, how do your Colorado spruce look so good? Mine don't look that good. And we just start sharing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's two things. One, fertilize them right now with all-purpose plant food. That's a 744 natural organic fertilizer. It's granular, sprinkle out there. It's got a lot of sulfur in it. It'll lower the pH. It's made with cottonseed meal, lowers the pH, makes it more acidic. So your evergreens that you just mentioned, they like acidity. They want the ground to be acid loving. So that will do that. It'll also increase the bud size. If you look on the tips, you're seeing this little tiny button on the end. That's going to be the elongated growth. That's spruce, pine, fir, cedar, cypress, all your evergreens, your conifers. They're going to have that. But what your neighbor specifically is talking about is aluminum sulfate. Aluminum is plants pick up aluminum out of the soil, and that's what creates that intense blue. So if you got Arizona cypress that are crazy blue, they've got a lot of aluminum. Colorado spruce, a lot of blue. That's aluminum. Or your Vanderwolf pines. Vanderwolfs have that blue on the top side, white on the bottom. It'll bring out that intensity. So it almost, if you give it enough, if you do those two things, all-purpose plant food and aluminum sulfate, they'll almost glow in the dark after they start to grow for spring. They'll come out and go, whoa, that's pretty cool. If you don't do that, they start to get yellow. They get pale. They get they look off color. And so they just won't be as thick and full. They won't have as many branches. The growth won't be as long. They won't be as luscious. And all of us want more luscious in our lives. And that's what's going to do it. Aluminum sulfate, all-purpose plant food. That's a great question, actually. Now's the time. Right away. I would do it almost now if you really want to be intense. We did our whole yards a couple of weeks ago. We'll do it again right before they get their growth, probably in March. Hit it again with the same thing, and the new growth will just be covered with this beautiful silvery blue color. I'll do it to lilacs. They like that because you'll get a better fragrance, a brighter color with that. And so certain things that I would say evergreens and early spring bloomers really appreciate that.
Good to know. All right. Tess is in her first house, new homeowner.
Congratulations, Tess. Yeah. All right.
She really wants to put in a spring garden, and she wants to know, what do you put in? Yeah. What type of plants can go into a spring garden? And when do you start planting?
Yeah, that's a good question, Tess. So that's actually good. That's not an innocent or newbie question. That's anyone that's new to the area. You need to know your zone. So we're zone 7. We need plants to go down to 10 degrees. You need to know your frost dates. The frost dates, the last frost of the year, of the spring is May 8th, actually. That's the 100 years average. Locals use Mother's Day. I know it fluxes a little bit, but Mother's Day is what the locals use as a holiday. And then Halloween is actually October 29 is the exact 100-year average of first frost of the year. But locals use Halloween as the holiday. Easier to remember. So keep those things in mind. If you're going before Mother's Day, we have early spring plants. So we just got our first load of pansies are in. They love the cold. They love bright days and cold nights. If you're doing flowers like that. So vegetables would be broccoli, cauliflower. Those are things you can start really early. If you're doing trees, you can do fruit trees starting. Next week, we got our first load of fruit trees coming in. So you can plant those in there. Lilacs will be on that same truck. So you can plant then. So there's early spring. So which is really after Mother's Day. That's when you're putting all your tomatoes and all your other summer blooming plants. You put those in then you got your summer plants. I just need heat, more heat. They love the heat. And then you got fall color. Right now, we're really dealing with evergreen stuff. So your things that just hold their foliage. Actually, a lot of them bloom. So you're looking at Raphaeoliptus, gardenias. A lot of these evergreens will actually bloom. You mentioned winter blooming jasmine. It's evergreen that blooms in the winter. So Daphne. Those are all the things. Come in and visit. And Tess, we'll walk you. Take a camera phone. Take a picture. Bring it in. Don't get overwhelmed because it's easy to get way overwhelmed. Just take a picture of your front entrance, your back patio, where I want that garden bed. We'll look to see how much sun is there, how much soil, what else is growing. We'll help get you some companion plants in that area. We are out of time. My goodness, it goes fast. Ken and Lisa Lain, the mountain gardeners. As the days get longer and brighter, houseplants can struggle and scorch, but we have the solution.
At Waters, we've organized our houseplants from A to Z for the brightest of sunny locations, many even bloom.
With experts that know plants and how to make them grow.
Shipments of the freshest houseplants in town have just arrived from A to Z and ready for a bright new home.
You're listening to Ken Lain, aka the Top 10 Gardener. Ken can be found throughout the week in Prescott at Waters Family Garden Center. Listen daily as he answers the top 10 questions of the week, streaming on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you download your podcasts.